Hello fellow designers, it's Karen of Karen Gwen Customs, and today I'm giving you guys a tutorial on how to create my latest sewing pattern, the high waist biker shorts. Remember, these are on sale on my Etsy store, etsy.com/shop/Karen Gwen Customs. Make sure you grab your copy to download and print at home if you haven't. Biker shorts are such a quick and easy item to sew and a perfect addition to your summer wardrobe. So if you'd like to see these shorts being created in action, make sure to stay tuned. But before you do, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and share this video with a friend that you think might be interested in my content. If you're not following me on social media, please do. My Instagram is KGC Sewing Patterns, and I also have a Facebook page called KGC Self-Taught Sewing Patterns. Thanks! In order to create the biker shorts, you're going to need the following items. First, you're going to need my pattern. When you purchase it online, you're going to be able to print out this instruction booklet that has full color instructions and then a size chart on the back. You're also going to need the pattern itself. So here is the front piece for the shorts, and then here is the back piece for the shorts. Something you'll notice about the pants pattern for the back is that it's made for curvy people in mind. So this curve back here that goes down the center seam of your butt area is made to accommodate your behind. So if you make this and you feel like there's too much room in the butt area, you just would simply need to take away a little bit of that curve down that center back seam. And then also here is the waistband. And then remember, this pattern does come in size extra small to 3X. So once you have it printed and taped together, you're going to simply just find whatever size you're making, whatever size you fit into, and cut that out. If you want to be able to save your pattern for another time, I suggest getting like a big roll of easel paper and tracing your patterns and cutting those out instead of cutting out your original pattern so you can save it. Or if you have the digital version, you can feel free to print out one for each different size. So I'm going to be making the size large, as you can see. And then also you're going to need about 1 yard of fabric. You can probably get away with a little bit less, but I say 1 yard just to be safe. I found this fabric at Walmart. I finally was able to find some of the 3 yards for $6 fabric, and I just couldn't pass it up because that's such a steal for fabric. Usually if you go to like Joann or somewhere, you'll be paying like at least $10 a yard. So I thought this was a really good deal. I have 3 yards, so I'm going to be making the shorts, and I'll have enough left over to make something else if I want to. And then I'm going to be using this thread. I think it matches pretty well. So I'm going to start by laying out my fabric so that I can start cutting my pattern pieces out. The fabric from Walmart was not labeled, so I'm not sure what this is called. If y'all know, leave it in the comments below. Like, I've used it before and I knew the name at some point. If I remember, I'll put it in the description box. But it's a 4-way stretch, but it stretches mostly this direction and then it stretches a little less this direction. So I'm going to be cutting my pattern on the more stretchy part. So I just like to take my fabric, and fold it in half so that I have 2 layers. So once you have it laid out, you're going to take both pattern pieces for the front and back and just lay them out flat like that. And I'll cut this piece out separately, so I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to cut that out because I cut it out in a special way. But basically just lay your 2 pattern pieces for the front and back down, and I like to pin mine in place. Some people like to just put down little like weights to hold it in place, but for me, pinning is a little bit more precise. Now that I have it pinned, I'm going to go ahead and cut both pieces out. This already includes seam allowance, so you can cut these out right at the edge of the paper. Okay, now I'm going to cut out the waistband. For the waistband, you can see the instructions say cut 2 on fold. The fold is up here. So the fabric's going to be folded at this edge, and you're going to end up with 2 pieces that are twice as long as this one piece. So what I do for that, I take my fabric at the folded end. This is a folded end, and I fold it down. Remember, this is already 2 layers, so when you fold this piece down, you're going to end up with 4 layers. Okay, so now I have that laid out, and I'm just going to cut it along these 2 edges. Now the next thing you're going to do is pin your pieces together. We have all the pieces cut out, so we just need to pin them together and get ready to sew them. I forgot to cut this. Remember, when you fold down, you need to cut along that top edge so that you do have the 2 separate pieces. So you're going to pin your fabric right side together. So see, I have 2 separate pieces for my waistband. I'm just going to lay the first piece face up and the second piece face down. And that's called right sides together. Now, these are going to be sewn together along the short edges. So I'm just taking my pins and pinning them together along the 2 short sides. And then for the actual shorts, you're going to do the same thing. We're going to be sewing along the center seam first, from waist to crotch. And you're going to also pin right sides together. So take that first piece, lay it down face up, and then lay your second piece face down right on top of it. And we're going to pin along the center seam. So I have it pinned along this edge, and that's where we're going to be sewing first. Same thing for the front pieces. Right side up, right side down, right sides together. Okay, so you have the back and front pieces pinned together at the crotch, and then you also have your waistband pieces pinned together at the sides. So I'm going to sew these together. Remember, you're sewing the fronts together first and the backs together, and then you're going to sew the fronts to the back, and then last we're going to do the waistband. Okay, so I have my sewing machine set up, and now I'm getting ready to sew the front and back pieces together, as well as the waistband. So I'm taking my fabric. This is the edge that I have pinned together, and I'm going to be sewing it together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So see, my fabric is not sitting right under the presser foot. It's sitting a little bit over to the right, and there are markings over here that tell you how much seam allowance you have. So this is lining up with the 1/2 inch mark. It actually says 5/8 of an inch, but I just call it a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to be using a zigzag stitch. So I have my machine set to number 4. That's what my zigzag stitch is. And you can see over here, it's just like a zigzag. This is for stretch fabric, and it helps your thread expand and compress with your fabric as your fabric does, because it stretches. It keeps your thread from popping is what I'm trying to say. So I'm just going to sew this together. This is the back piece. I'm going to sew the front pieces together, and then I'm going to sew the waistband together. I always start sewing forward, then I sew back a little bit, and then I sew forward again to make sure that my stitches are secure and that nothing will unravel. And my needle is kind of puncturing my fabric. I forgot to adjust my tension. Now, when you're sewing like two thin pieces of fabric together, you want to have a low tension. I'm putting mine's, sorry, this is my tension up here. I put my tension down to 3. Higher tension is for thicker fabrics. But anyways, on with this. Okay, so we got this piece sewn together. You can see the little stitches along the edge, and it is a zigzag stitch. And then when you open it, you got a seam right there, so it looks good. And I like to go ahead and trim the seam allowance off as I go. Now, if this is your first time making these and you want to see how they fit first, see if you have to make any alterations afterwards, then you can save the trimming for the end. But I like to do my finishing touches as I go so that I don't get bogged down with them at the end of my project, because they are my least favorite part. And if you sew this together with a serger, then you won't have to do this part. The serger actually cuts the seam allowance off for you, but I know a lot of my subbies are using regular sewing machines, so I'm just showing you guys that method. So I just trimmed it. That's how it looks. And I'm going to go ahead and sew the front pieces together the same way, and then I'm going to sew the waistband together. Okay, and then lastly, I'm sewing my waistband pieces together. Remember, you're sewing them together along each short edge. So I'm doing this edge first, and then I'll do the other side. Okay, so we got all that stuff sewn together. The next thing that we're going to do is we're gonna pin the front piece and the back piece together. So remember the piece that doesn't have the, like, this one goes straight down and then curves out. Remember, the back piece is the one that has the butt curve. So this is the back piece. You're just gonna spread it out like that. Lay it flat on the table. And then this is the front piece. You're going to take your front piece and lay it right side down, because remember, you always sew right sides together. And you're going to start pinning it together at the crotch, the very middle where the two legs meet. So I match the seams up and pin those together, and then I just keep pinning from center all the way till I get to the bottom of the leg. Okay, so now that everything is pinned together, I'm going to sew my crotch piece together first, or leg to leg. I'm going to sew the inner legs together first, inseam, that's what it's called. Now, if these are just for you and you don't even feel like trimming off the seam allowance, that's totally up to you. Just my personal preference. If it's for a client, you definitely don't want big seams on the inside, just extra fabric. You want as little as possible. So I sewed my crotch seams together, and now I'm going to be sewing the side seams together, and then we're going to be adding the waistband. Okay, so at this point we have a pair of shorts. We just don't have the waistband yet, but these are the shorts. And then if you look on the back, you can see that the back of the shorts, they form like a point in the center. The point is so that the shorts don't get pulled down towards the center of your butt. Okay, now you turn your shorts right side out, and we're going to be adding our waistband. You're going to turn your waistband right side out, and you're going to fold it in half like this, so that you have your waistband is half as tall. Now, how tall you want the waistband to be is up to you. The way my pattern is going to be 2 inches tall. But if you want it to be shorter, you can adjust as needed. And if you want to insert elastic into your waistband to help it stay up on you tighter, you can. It's totally up to you. Or you can even use if your fabric is pretty stretchy, you can even use the pattern for the size down. So like if I was making the large, I'm using a large waistband, but if I wanted to, I could probably get away with using a medium waistband to make it a little bit tighter in my waist. But totally up to you. Experiment with it and see what you prefer. So here's the side seam for my waistband, and you can see I have it folded in half. I'm going to take it and line the edges of the waistband, the raw edges of the waistband, up with the raw edge, the top edge of the biker shorts, like that. And I'm just going to start pinning it all the way around the waist. So I'm going to pin the other seam of the waistband to the other side seam of the shorts. And we're going to be attaching the waistband like that. So I'm pinning the raw edges of the waistband to the raw edge of the top of the shorts, all the way around. Okay, so I now have the waistband pinned all the way around, and once we sew it, it's going to look like that. So then go ahead and sew the waistband to the pants, same way you've been sewing everything else, 1/2 inch seam allowance. And naturally, when I have more layers, I just increase my tension. I'm going to turn my tension up to like 5, because it's a little bit thicker layers that the needle is having to go through. Alright, so you can see I got the waistband sewn all the way around, and I'm just going to trim the excess off so that there's a little bit less extra fabric inside my garment. When you are trimming fabric off, be super careful that you're not cutting through any other parts of the garment, and that you're not cutting through any of your stitching. When I was a beginner, like, I can't tell you the amount of outfits I ruined because I was cutting too fast and I cut a piece of my dress or whatever I was making off. Alright, so we have our waistband sewn on, and then lastly you're gonna hem the bottom. And for this part, if it's easier for you, you could turn your pants back inside out. And when you hem, you're gonna turn your fabric up twice, very small. So that's 1 and that's 2. You want your hem to be about 1/3 to a 1/2 inch wide. If it's too thin, then your machine may end up eating your fabric. So now I'm getting ready to hem my fabric. As you can see, the edge of the folded fabric kind of lines up with the edge of my presser foot, and then my needle is going to hit more on this side. The more space you have between the edges of your fabric and the needle, the better, because it's going to prevent your machine from eating your fabric. Alright, so I have it hemmed. That's what the inside looks like. Looks pretty good, pretty neat. And then this is what the outside looks like. You can see this one little line going around the bottom edge of the fabric, not too close to the edge. I'm done. So this is how the finished product looks, and the fabric is really stretchy, so I could have maybe gotten away with the size medium. This is a large, but it all depends on what kind of fabric you use. And I don't know what I'm gonna wear these with, so I may do another tutorial showing myself making a top to go with this, because I mean, what else does this match with? But that's the tutorial on how to do the biker shorts. Remember guys, go on my Etsy store, etsy.com/shop/KarenGwenCustoms, and get your copy. Thank y'all so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share this video with someone that may be interested, and I'll see you guys next time.